That countdown made me feel like I was in an elevator, not in a good way. So we'll find a different song. The graphics weren't so bad. But welcome everybody to another live stream of Dino AI. This is our fourth live stream since we did our Dino AI version 2.0. And in the past, what we've done with these live streams is we've demonstrated pretty simple, I'd say, Fabio, pretty simple examples of how you can use Dino AI for DBT development. The easiest way to understand Dino AI is the cursor for data. So how it works is you have a dedicated agent within the Paradigm Code IDE, and this agent understands the context and structure of your data warehouse as well as your repository. So it makes it really easy and efficient to write high quality DBT models. And the example we're going to do today is quite complicated and really interesting. Fabio, our co-founder, is going to show us how you can use Dino AI to do a migration from one data warehouse to another. The example he's using is moving from Redshift to Trino. And he's going to show us exactly how all this is done step by step. But what's really interesting about this is if you work on a data team, you've probably had to do some kind of data migration from one warehouse to another. And in addition to that, maybe you've had to change your repository entirely so that the SQL syntax now matches your new data warehouse. So with no further ado, Fabio, are you ready to show us how it's done?
Awesome. Let's dive in, Parker.
All right.
Cool. Also, yeah, so thanks, Parker, for setting the scene. I guess what we've been covering with DinoAI so far has been like part of the flows, let's say, or like writing docs, generating models, generating tests. But what I want to talk through today is actually how we go to from having a bunch of Redshift models and how we can migrate them into Trino and Starbucks, and how we can set up ultimately this within Paradigm. So one key element that we support at Paradigm is the ability to have a multi-engine configuration. So the first thing actually is setting up, going to the settings page. So in Paradigm, we do support the ability to connect to multiple warehouse providers. So in this case, I have one connection, which is against Redshift, and then one connection within against Trino or Starbucks in this case. What this allows me to do, and we'll go through a few examples, is to actually run and test those models against those two different engines and see what needs to be ultimately improved and fixed and migrated ultimately within a different SQL syntax. So these are our interface. I'll start by opening a terminal, and I have my first command, which is basically executing this specific model in here against the Redshift connector, right? So if I press enter, I can go ahead and run the first model I have in place in here, and I can see that everything runs fine against Redshift, right? So I'm going to go and run now the same thing against Starburst. So in Paradigm, because we are enabling both of those engine connection, I can point to either Starburst or to Redshift by just passing in DBT the target flag, right, which basically points to that specific profile. So I can go ahead and press enter here, and we'll see where we are with this. So this will go and run again this model. We can see here is pointing now to the adapter Trino. Okay, so this will allow us, again, I'm already working on two engine, right? I'm already executing the same SQL script against Redshift and against Starburst. So far so good. We go and let's say open up this file. So it was a pretty simple, just LSA, nothing crazy going on there, which helped us to understand a little bit more about what kind of SQL we run. Right? So this is a pretty straightforward one. Now the next thing I want to talk through before we jump into the next phase is in Paradigm we support different types of context. One of them is through Dino rules. So what I've done is I've set up my Dino rules. I'm just going to open this up for a sec to make the behavior of my agent a bit more specific with a migration that I'm planning to do here. So I'm basically say, hey, when you do the migration, make sure that you add comments alongside the code changes you're going to make. I have a bunch of data types mapping here and a few other migration guides of how I think that the SQL syntax should be updated or changed. So if I go ahead now and I want to run against another model in here, let's say this driver stats. I'm going to do this first test again. And I'm going to run this against Redshift. I will expect them, everything should work so long as expected you. The next thing up, I'm going to run exactly the same model against Starburst now in Trino. Okay. So what I want to see basically is to kind of like identify what works and what doesn't work as a query. I'm expecting I'm going to get some error. Here we go. Now, a common problem with migration is that there are very many different type of SQL syntax and business logic that has to change when we migrate from one engine to another one. So one of the new addition to context, so in Paradime we support various different contexts around SQL file, folders in your repository, your data warehouse, of course, provider with metadata from information schema and so on. One of the latest addition in Paradime is now full support for PDF, right? So if I go ahead and open my PDF file here, what I've done is I've basically generated a little migration guide of how to go from Redshift to Trino with effectively mappings of data types, mapping of different datetime function, mapping of various different aggregate and window function, what is compatible, what is not compatible, what change, and various different example. Of course, I've used DinoAI to generate these and then export it as a PDF. But one of the new additions, first of all, within the Paradime interface is that right now you can actually preview this PDF inside your IDE. So whether you are thinking about adding more contextual information, documentation in various different formats for people to consume as they develop your code, is supported there. The second thing that now supporting PDF enables us is actually the ability to use this PDF as context within our DinoAI agent. So what it means is now I can actually go and say, hey, I want to translate the SQL from Redshift to Trino. Can you use this migration guide as your baseline resource to understand the SQL file that I have and how that should be translated within that should be effectively translated within a new Trino SQL flavor we have. So I'll go here. I'll restart my chat. Sec. So these are DinoAI agent. I'm already on agent mode, which means that now I can pass more context. I can also enable the agent to edit my file and make all those modifications, right? So the first thing I'm going to just paste here a prompt, which says I need to migrate from SQL code from Redshift to Trino. Here's the SQL I'm working with. So I'm going to add this context. I'll say, please help me convert this to a Trino compatible syntax while maintaining the same functionality. And now I'm going to upload or add as additional context the PDF for reference. Okay. So what I'm going to do is add open file to context at the first part, which is the F1 driver statistic. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for my PDF. Okay. So now that I press enter, what this will allow us to do is to merge the Dino rules, which effectively tells how we want the agent to behave while going through the migration, as well as the file that we want to migrate, and more importantly, the PDF. So the first thing is based on the migration guide, I can see there are a few main changes we have to make. Replace list type with array arg, replace NVL with coalesce, remove some type of casting that they're not supported in there, and then adjust the distinct and order, right? So this is the first tranche. Then we go, we can see the diff in here. Let me actually expand this one a little bit more so we actually see what the diff looks like. And I can see that what the agent has done is added a little comment, and this model has been migrated from Redshift to Trino, migrated by DinoAI. He wants to, of course, make sure it's involved all the way through, and then a bunch of comment on what has been actually changed and modified. So what I can do, I can click on accept now. And what I can do is to rerun this exact model against Starburst again, okay? So in the meantime, we also got like a breakdown of all the changes that have been made, what has been replaced, what kind of logic has been put in place to make this migration. So I can go ahead and press enter to execute this file. And we'll see whether the migration was successful at the first start. So first thing we'll get, okay, some part of the code is migrated, but there was still something here which is not yet done. So what I can do is to actually go ahead and select this snippet of log. I can just send it here again. And now we'll see how the agent should be able to detect a little bit more of how this logic should be changed and kind of like what is the next step in the migration process. So it's finding that, okay, yeah, there's an issue, it's a common limitation that we have within Trino as well, and we'll see how it went about it. So on the back of this change, what we're seeing now is it actually went and modified the SQL. Okay, so maintaining the same business logic, but actually modified SQL to support the migration to a new SQL flavor that to Trino. So I can go ahead and click on accept now. So it's like custom implementation handle this thing with order by using a subquery. So he actually went and modified a bunch of things for us to make sure that the SQL we are migrating was fit for purpose for this. So I can go ahead now and press run again. We can again execute and see how easy it is for me to switch between one engine and another one. I can run against Redshift, I can run again against Trino. It's pretty seamless for me to explore those different SQL engine as I go through. So it seems that we're good. We get a success. The view was created. We're happy here so far. I can go ahead and maybe create a commit so we can actually push a bunch of those things for us. Okay. Okay, so the next thing up is I want to look at here my my lineage file to kind of like understand a little bit more about what is inside integration. Oh, I think so. This might be interesting. Okay, move forward. So the next thing up is I want to go and continue, right? Migrating. So what's happening next? So I have this Mars file that I have here. And I can see that the driver start, the one I just migrated, it's a dependency, and I have a bunch of other things that need to be migrated or potentially be migrated there. So let's see. So the second things up that I want to do is to go ahead and execute this specific file again. But now it's the next level up, and I execute this both against Redshift and against my Starburst engine. Okay, so actually I can probably skip Redshift. I know it works there anyway. So I'm going to run the Mars one. I'm going to press run. I'm going to see. I expect this to be erroring out. It's a bit more complex than SQL 2 in here. And okay, we're getting the first error, right? So the next thing up I want to do is, again, kind of replicate what we've done before, but this time with a little bit of a different context, of course, because we're doing this with a different DBT model. So again, same prompt I'm using before. I add this as a context, my open file, which is the MarTF1 driver, and then I can search for my PDF migration guide again. Then press enter. So similar to what we just done now, what I would expect that if the agent will go and search through the PDF, understand what's there, what can be migrated right away, and come up with his own suggestion of how to translate my SQL in here within a format that Trino is Trino compatible. And so far, I haven't yet made actually any modification myself to the SQL, so it's always been through anyway. And I can see it's identified a bunch of things that we'll most likely have to modify and update here. And I come up with his own suggestion. Then I can see here a bunch of things that have been replaced as well. Some business logic that has been migrated, again, to handle this kind of distinct aggregation we saw before in the other model as well. And I can go ahead and press accept. So now I have a first version of this. So I can go ahead and let me just maybe clear this visibility. Okay. to the here you go. Okay, I press run. So let's execute again this file. Let's see how far we got to. So this one was a bit more complex. So I can see that it went through the breakdown, which is a bit more rich in terms of all the things that have been modified here. So the JSON, the way how it's constructed, the aggregation again, and how went and replaced the list arg in the proper format, a bunch of casting and like other form changes that have been like made to support me through the migration as well. So far so good, right? I've migrated already 2 models in there, and all this without me ever needed to actually switch towards 2 different instances of my project. I'm actually running with the same project that will normally run in Redshift, and I'm able to execute once against Redshift, then I can execute against Starburst. I can see the difference, let the agent do his work on fixing and improving the SQL from anything which is a bit simpler around casting and renaming to more complex function, and actually remodeling the SQL itself so that it's supported within the Trino engine. So the last thing I want to do is now I want to be adding just a commit to save the changes here. So far so good. The kind of the last step is one of the major, I think, reason why I've seen a lot of DBT user migrating from Redshift to engine like Starburst is, of course, Iceberg format, right? So how we can effectively have this DBT model writing into Iceberg so that a team can consume this data using the file format from different provider, whether that's Snowflake or DuckDB or Starburst and so on. So the last thing I want to do now is to actually make sure that my DinoAI agent will also go and actually update these models, right? So that it's going to execute, it's going to write into an Iceberg format itself. So go here, and I'm just going to have like another little prompt in there. It's like, can you update this model so that we can materialize all as stable and use the Iceberg format in there? Here in this case, if I go back to my folder, I'm happy to keep this one as views. So nothing really that I want to do there, but I have this intermediate and marks, which is the one that actually I want to materialize as stable and make sure that they are into the Iceberg file format. So I can, something we're supporting Paradime is, of course, is add the whole folder as context. So I'm just, now it's not just one file at a time, I'm actually asking to go ahead and modify multiple files to support this. So I can go ahead and add the other directory, which is the marts. Okay, and then press enter. So what we're doing now is we're basically asking the agent to go and modify whatever configuration are needed for me to be able to write this table into the Iceberg format. So we are searching through the SQL inside the intermediate folder to start with. So context, again, through the marks folder, understand what is the SQL that lives in there to start with. And then it's okay, this is the first model. Let's update one, which is the driver stats. Okay. So we'll go now and we'll see some modification popping up here, which is most likely some config that we'll have to add at the top of the file to make sure that, that we have the correct materialization in here. And we can see now that the agent went and find out what was the right config block for that. So we have one model done. Now we expect that the agent will go and do all the models across all these different folders that we have requested. So we have one now, and we'll expect like a few more to pop up here on the screen as we go. We complete the migration. But what is the exciting thing is that now with tools like Paradime, we have actually all the different moving parts that you need to have a successful migration from one engine to another one. Not only the capability to execute queries on a multi-engine or a multi-data warehouse supported approach, so writing on Redshift or against Trino, and the same things apply for migrating from BigQuery to Snowflake or vice versa. All these are supported, but with the combination of the new context by PDF and the Dino roles and the Dino agent itself with this system knowledge of your repository and the context that is required, we can actually do this migration on the fly, one by one, for all the models and all the pipeline, and we can actually move a lot faster into this process now. So we are almost through the end. We got probably like another one model, I believe, to complete, one or two model, and then we're done. And effectively, we went through a full flow of migrating an entire pipeline using the DinoAI agent and Paradime. Okay, let's wait for a few seconds more. So this will also pop up, and then we can officially mark this as done. And here we go, got the final results. So what I personally like about DinoAI as an agent is not only the fact that it goes and makes all modification for me in the SQL, but it's actually pretty good at explaining what it has done and can I take you through this journey step by step on all this configuration, all those things, keep you in the loop and make sure that you're there alongside it to review those changes and make sure that things are working as expected as you go along.
Great, Fabio. Does that conclude the demo, or are there more things you want to demonstrate before we dive into questions?
Yeah, I think we can. It went all as we wanted. So the migration is complete. We're all good to go now. We create the commits and push them so that realistically we can actually make those changes and start running them in production also within Trino.
Awesome. So if you have questions about what Fabio demonstrated, please add them to the comments. I definitely have a couple questions. Mm-hmm. The first one is, so when you were figuring out how to use DinoAI to do this migration, mm-hmm. what is something that you learned that helped you most effectively use DinoAI? Or like, where'd you fail and how'd you fix that, and how did DinoAI help you solve it?
Very good question, actually. So one thing that helped me a lot was to think about the agent as a companion. Not only like, oh, my context is the file and the PDF and whatever I enter in the chat, but just I see an error inside the terminal, I'll just copy and paste the error. I'll let DinoAI, which is smart enough to figure out what that error means and help me fix it rather than me trying to understand what the error is. I don't even think about it anymore. I get the error in the terminal, I copy and paste the error, push it in the terminal, let DinoAI agent come up with what the error means and how to fix it. See, we of course got one error as part of the process, but the agent was able to resolve it on its own without actually me intervening in any way. So it's something that with agent is an interesting mental shift in the way how we think how to do development or data engineering in general. Is not only about the add rate and the PDF, as I said, but it's a lot more of like just give more information and provide more context, even if it's not as part of a specific feature where you do add rate. Find that.
And when I'm assuming you've done a migration like this for some of our customers, or you've helped them with it, and you've done it at your previous jobs. How long does this process take, for example, like this, without a DinoAI? So
if I look at only those models and contextually to what we just done in the demo, that's definitely a few hours work. I'll say a couple of hours, at least maybe 3, to go through all the different steps, trying to figure out all the different date formats. I think the beauty of it is not only the translation, but it's the fact that I haven't wrote this. If I open up my migration guide, this is not something I wrote, right? So I was able to actually go and generate using DinoAI first what the migration guide should look like and validate that the migration guide is there. and it's in place for me to support those use cases. But Costa is not around, so I can be like, okay, it takes 5 minutes, but definitely 3 to 4 hours at least minimum for just those 2 models or 3 models that have changed.
I still don't fully understand what the word meta means, but I think this is it. So you used DinoAI to produce a PDF that you then fed into DinoAI to use for DinoAI. I think that's the definition of meta. If I'm wrong, let me know.
Yeah, I think so as well.
And so you chose to use a PDF here just to demonstrate that you can use the DinoAI context feature for files beyond SQL files and YAML files and typical analytics engineering file formats. So is this something that you could have also just added to the chat panel, or is there a reason why it's more beneficial to do it this way?
It's a very good question, actually. So there are a few reasons why this is a lot better for us. One is because if you see this PDF is 10 pages long, right? This is a very, very long page. If you think about from an LLM perspective, we do have some context limitation, and your chat cannot be extremely long or can go above a certain limit that is provided by, in this case, Claude or Anthropic. Using PDF, it expands the use cases we have because sadly we are not limited anymore by that context limitation in that sense. So one case like this one is it's a lot easier for me to have a PDF loaded in Paradime and then just use that as context. Just one for this type of file. But you can imagine that there's a lot of use cases where visual representation that can be only made through a PDF can be extremely powerful to do data development. Imagine you have an entity relation diagram that says, we draw something on Excalibur or another tool that allows you to make these visual joins, right? And add some notes to it, which is probably what we do as data engineer when we start. You don't go and write SQL on day 0. You probably start to map what are the joins and the table relationship. That is context. If that is a PDF, you can easily pass that within Paradime, and Paradime is able to actually generate pipelines based on your data design from a PDF, which I think is crazy powerful.
Understood. Thanks for the clarity on that. That helps me as well. I believe that is all the questions. Is there anything that you'd like to add, Fabio?
I think it's live, it's feature live. So sign up to Paradime, play around with it, explore it, what the possibilities are. We are super excited by this addition to having PDF as context, as mentioned. And yeah, stay tuned. We have a lot of more exciting things coming up in terms of new context, new ability for you to interact with the agent to streamline those workflow even further.
Do we have our plan for next week's live stream yet? I'm sure we'll come up with it tomorrow if we don't have it already.
Yeah, so we'll announce it tomorrow. There is a whole bunch of new tools we are planning to launch. So keep an eye on our releases over tomorrow to.
Okay, so new features. We have new features of DinoAI that we're going to announce, and we'll probably use those new features for our live stream next week.
Exactly.
That's bold. Not only are we launching a new feature, we're going to test it in public for everyone to see.
That's the way to go now.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for attending. And Fabio, thanks for the demonstration. And we will be back next Thursday.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.